Hey folks, Little John. Running into now part 2 of the Hazy Pale Ale. Sorry, part 1 we've brewed it, got it in the fermenter, into the fridge. Sat in the fridge for 3 days at the initial ferment temp, and then I measured off the dry hop. Would have been a good idea actually to get that ready. And dry hop was 30 grams of Strata, 30 grams of Citra, and 20 grams of the Vic Secret. I just put that in loose. I had planned on using a hot bag or a sock, so I could pull it out after 3 days. But the way the ferment seemed to be going, it was fairly reasonably active early on. So I was pretty confident I was losing points pretty quickly, and you'll see that shortly how that was travelling. So I just put them in loose, working on the basis they weren't going to be in there for real, any great length of time more than what I originally planned. So we'll skip it now. I'll have a look at the dry hop happening and grabbing a bit of a sample off that. Right, I'm dry hopping. I'll try and stay out of the way here a little bit. I've just rounded the pressure off. Pressure has been sitting on 10 psi for that's now 3 days. These have sprung up a little bit, not quite more active. You'll see from the video up, I've shown me winding the pressure off and seeing the difference. So I'm just going to pop the lid and I'm going to drop in my dry hops. So we've got 30 grams of Strata, 30 of Citra, and 20 of the Vic Secret. And I'm just dumping them straight in, and we'll get the lid back on. And the spunding valve also back on. It's wound off a little bit, so I'm just going to pop this up a little bit. And I'm going to set it over a couple of beers, so I'll just keep an eye on that. Friday afternoon, so I'll just keep an eye on this and make sure it doesn't get too high. I probably still don't want any more than about 10. So I'm going to sit down, have a look at the sample I took and see if we can get a gravity reading on where we're at the moment. Okay, that's done. The dry hop's in. Okay, we're 3 days in, so it's Friday. Going to let this dry hop go for 3 days. So Saturday, Sunday, so Monday night, Monday evening. Well, it's not going to go 3 days now because I didn't put them in a bag. So it's going to go a little bit longer, but I am looking to, going off reports of this yeast, it should well be pretty much finished by Monday, in which case I'll be able to just come and crash and even look at getting into the keg Sunday or Monday. I want to get this one in pretty fresh, so just pull off a sample. So there's a little bit of yeast in there. tasting fruity. And I've been getting, I put post up on Facebook after pitching, and mentioning that the using the verdant yeast and running it at the 10 psi, and a lot of people bloody having a bit of a dummy spit because you're wasting it. You're not going to get the esters from the yeast. Blah blah blah. Should just use the plain yeast and all the rest of it, which is fine. But I'm not after the big esters, the big fruity flavours from the verdant. I want maybe a little bit of that, but from the descriptors I'm getting from it, I don't necessarily want to push it that hard, and certainly not on this brew. And ideally, and I said earlier, I would have used something a little bit more clean. I probably would have gone for an 05. Probably should. I've got a BRY97. I did think about using that, but you know, I was pretty keen to give this verdant a go. So, but I'm feeling from this taster, I think there's a good bit of yeast character coming through. And I mean, for mine, the 10 psi isn't particularly high. You can see there from the video of the ferment, there's a good carousing and stuff going on. There's good ferment happening. So I get that we're not going to push it as much as possible. It's at the lower end of its temperature range and the pressure. So it'd be interesting, I think, to see how it goes on this brew, and then how it goes down the track on an actual IPA where it's allowed to do its thing and let the esters really kick in. So I'm not too concerned about that. Now, I'm just sort of trying to degas this sample a bit so I can get a hydro reading. It's not super gassy, so we might be right with that. Have a look. Bang on exactly sort of what I need. Now, people have also shown concern that it's going to be bloody possibly, finished. And the finish does finish pretty quick, and it was a concern, and was part of the reason why I wanted to have that bit of pressure. So I'll explain. Well, I didn't necessarily want to go in the point where biotransformation was going to be a big thing, but looking at that today, there's still a fairly good carousing, so we're probably not too far off anyway. And that's sitting around 10:20, so it's probably got another somewhere between 4 and 8 points still to go before it's done. So that's, might even be 10:22. So that's alright, I'm happy with that. So I'm pretty confident she'll finish over the next 3 days. And then I'm going to go to a quick cold crash. So I'm not going to run this one like my normal process. I'm going to take advantage of the pressure fermenter, and so basically at 6 days, cold crash for 2 days. Won't even be 2 days. It'll be about 2 days, and then look to get it in the keg. So for me, this is certainly going to be a quick turnover. So interested to see how that goes, but that will give it about 10-11 days in the keg before Christmas, before Chrissy Day. So give it a little bit of time to settle and level out. I think that's coming along nicely. There's just a little bit of sweetness left from the malt, which obviously we'll lose in the next couple of days. There's a nice bit of, just a nice little gentle hop touch there at the moment. There is a little bit of yeasty stuff there, so I think it is having a little bit of an impact. But yeah, the big one's going to be this dry hop, and again, like I said, it's not a massive dry hop, but I'm not looking for, it's not an IPA. It's just a hazy pale. So happy with how it's going at the moment. So we'll let it go. We'll come back and have a look at it in a few days and see how it's travelling. Righto, we're now 7 days in, and we dry hopped on day 3 for 3 days. So on day 6, which is yesterday, it started dropping the temp. It's now on 4.6. I'll drop that again. Savo was down 11.8 yesterday. Now, when I put the dry hop on, I attached the keg and ran the gas line into the keg with the spunding valve on it. I've done this previously for one reason. The gases the keg up, but biggest thing I was looking at with this was with the dry hop. I didn't want to scrub off too much aroma, so I thought possibly, well, maybe the worst that'll happen is someone will get caught in the keg, and then when we do cold crash, it may get sucked back into the main fermenter. Now, because I took the pressure off, which I'll discuss in a second, there's very little pressure left in that in the system at the moment. I'm actually going to pull that off the keg. So I'll put the spunding valve back onto the fermenter. Not it's going to make much difference, but we might cope a little bit. There'll be no real gas coming out of that at the moment. So that's cold crashing nicely. A bit hard to see all the condensation on the outside. Alright, yeah, so I put the dry hops in day 3. Obviously I was pretty aware that the verdant IPA, the yeast works fairly quickly, and a few people had commented from pictures on Facebook about being careful not that it doesn't actually finish fermenting before you get to the dry hop. So on day 3 I took a gravity reading. It was sitting at 10, I think it was 1020, 1022, somewhere around there. So I knew I still had a whack of points to go, so I wasn't done, and there was still some activity. I'd had the gas set to about 10 psi. Now, so I took the gas off, added the dry hops, and that's when I attached the keg. As I said, just trying to catch the CO2 to purge the keg, and also to try and catch some of that aroma to make sure we weren't blowing too much off. I mean, I don't know if it'll work, it might not do anything, but I thought at least if it's going to blow it off out of the fermenter, it's going to get caught in the keg. Because the bleed valve, the spunding valve was still set at 10 degrees, so it wasn't going to, it was going to hold a decent amount of pressure in the aroma. So I thought, well then, when we cold crash, it might suck it back into the fermenter. Whether it does anything, I don't know. Well, time will tell. But that, as I've done it previously, I'm hoping a good start. So that keg's purged. I don't need to actually use any of my own gas to purge that keg before I do the transfer into it. It's worked previously, so pretty happy. And don't know how clear the dial was there, but the gas had come back up to about 3.5 psi in that last little bit of fermentation before I cold crashed, in that 24 hours. I took another reading. It was at 10:12, and the activity was pretty much, there was no activity going on. There was still a bit of krausen on the top, but the actual activity in the yeast was none there. So Tuesday, so Monday, yesterday afternoon I dropped it to 11.8 degrees. So it still had a little bit of extra, still had some time where it was still going to ferment until this morning. This morning I dropped it back to that 4.7, sitting on 4.6 at the moment. And tonight I will drop it back down to 1 degree. And cold crash it for probably another 2 days. At the moment I'm off work Thursday, so I'll probably keg this one on Thursday, which will clear that fridge for Christmas. Now the sample yesterday was really nice. Didn't seem to have any yeast and stuff in the sample, so it definitely looks like the ferment had stopped. But the taste was really good clean flavour from that dry hop, no grassiness, so I'm really hoping that this process has worked really well this time. So, as I said, now Thursday looking to keg, and when I do that I'll pull a glass off and taste it, which will be very shortly. So we'll wait till then. Rightio. I'm in the middle of transfer on Hazy Ale. Where's my volume sticker? On the wrong side. Just let me run out slow. Still a little bit of crud on top, not too much, but that's all good. I'll get most of this out without too much issue. Just see if we can get a put a sample off. So we've been cold crashing for Thursday, started cold crashing Monday. It's been 3 days. So ferment on this was 3 days. 3 days in we dry hopped. Did that for 3 days. And then went to a cold crash. And I just dry hopped straight into the fermenter, it's loose. 3 days of dry hopping, 3 days we cold crashed, and then a 3-day cold crash, so it's been 9 days. So this is a quick ferment for me, so not quicker than I'd normally do. I'm transferring that reasonably slow. I'll put just a little bit of pressure in this, into the all-rounder, basically because the when my cold crashed, the blending valve is actually showing no pressure in here, so And assume that most of our gas has been absorbed back into the beer itself. Oh, that smells good. That's tasting pretty good. There's a little hint of grassy note there, but not much. I think that's going to settle pretty quickly. It's not as carved as much as I would have liked, and obviously that was from taking that taking the pressure off, put the dry hop in, and it had mostly finished fermenting at that stage, so it didn't really build back up again from there. So it's not holding as much residual gas as I would have liked, so it's going to need a little bit on the time from the gas in the fridge to fully carbonate, but that's all good. Yeah. So I took a test on this the other day. It was 112 the gravity. Looks like it's probably sitting a little bit high from the gas that's in there. I'll put a note down in the description with the final gravity. Yeah, that's too gassy at the moment. That's not going to give me a good reading. I'll let that sit for a bit. But yeah. So overall, not easily done. Nice and straightforward. Pretty happy with where we've ended up. I'm thinking from that sample that I still think, personally for myself, I think that taking the dry hop out after the 3 days may have been a good idea, and that was the original plan. So but right now, well, that's just going to be a case of see how this fella goes in the keg, give it a couple of days to settle and gas up properly and see what she's like. But that seems to be alright at the moment, so all good. So this is our last brew before Christmas. Pack up the ferment fridge today and turn it back into a normal fridge for food for Christy Day. So, and the preceding week afterwards. So next brew will probably be, might even be after the end of the new year now. I think we're going to have quite a few visitors about, so I probably won't get a brew day done till they've all gone home. So, but we'll see. But this is a hazy pale, not a NEPA, not an IPA. It really is pushed down to that a little bit lower. Runs at I think it was low 6%. Top of my head, I could go and have a look, but I'm not gonna. So it's the only real stronger beer. These fellas all run between 4.2 4.9%. So this is the only one that's got a bit of go about it. Whirlpool hops, dry hop, verdant IPA yeast. It's got a touch of fruit. I'm not completely sold on this one. I don't know exactly what it is. I think whether it's the hops or... But it's not, yeah, I don't know, I'm not real sold on that. It might need a little bit more time just to settle. It's only been in the keg for a couple of days. But we'll see how that progresses. This was meant to be a grain to glass video. Obviously getting to the end and having tasters here at the end of the video. Yeah, this is not the Hazy Pale Ale. Or I end up calling it the Christmas Ale. On the labelling on the fridge with the family all here. Now, on the initial tasting, it wasn't too bad, but there was still a little bit of that. Wasn't as much grassy hops, but the hop flavour wasn't quite where I would have liked it, or if I was expecting it. It wasn't as fruity as I thought it would be. Now, was kegged on the 18th, so that was the week before Christmas, so the Friday. So the Friday night it had been kegged on a closed transfer. Finished at 10-12 on the gravity, which I was, quite happy with. So it ended up at 5.8% ABV. On Monday the 21st, I did the tasting video, which you can go back and look at, which is only just before Christmas, which was all the beers I had on tap for Christmas, which included the Hazy Pale. Now, I still wasn't real happy with where that was at that point, and I wasn't confident on how it was going to turn out. I was still a bit worried about where the hop profile was. But obviously at that point it had only been in the keg for 3 days. So I was hopeful that the extra couple of days leading into Christmas it would sort of settle and the fruit would develop a little bit. And I wasn't too concerned because I thought the family's going to drink more of the lighter beers that I had on. So I thought, no worries, there's plenty of, there'll be some of that left to do a proper taste on once it developed. Now I did try it on Christmas Eve. The brother-in-law had a glass. He said he didn't mind it, he was liking it. And I had a bit of a taste, and the fruit was starting to come on. There was still a little bit of the hoppy, that grassy vegetative note, only very slightly up. It was certainly improving. But the brother-in-law certainly he liked it. Christmas night, we sort of shared a small glass of it. And again, it was getting a little bit better again. It was sort of getting fruitier, and that off sort of hoppy flavour was disappearing. So I was thinking, okay, this is coming along quite nicely. So I was looking forward to being able to do a taster. Boxing Day. By the time Boxing Day night had come, stocks were depleting in all the kegs, but I knew that the stocks were getting low, and I sort of told everyone, look, you probably really should go and get yourself some, buy some beer just to make sure we don't run out in the middle of the night. Which they sort of did, but the brother-in-law actually kept drinking. Now, I went to bed late-ish on Boxing Day night. A couple of them sat up, which was happening every night. Every night there was there was at least 2 or 3 that were sitting up to sort of 4 in the morning and drinking. And on Boxing Day night, the brother-in-law sat up with one of the other brothers, my daughter, and I think Mrs. Littlejohn stayed up with them as well for quite a while. But anyway, they're up drinking. So the next morning we're going over to pick my young bloke up from Junee off the train. He was coming up from Melbourne, and brother-in-law informs me that the Christmas ale had run out. He drunk the keg dry, which absolutely amazed me. I couldn't believe it, because the other boys hadn't been drinking it. They were drinking the other stuff, and they were onto their own. They're onto their own beer at that point. So, but he did confirm that he had quite a bit of it. And, but anyway, either way, it was gone. So, unable to do a follow-up tasting on it. But so all I can sort of say was that it had developed nicely. So by that Boxing Day, at that point it was 9 days old in the keg. So and I think from those couple of tasters over those few days, I think had it been able to age, go out for another week, even 2 weeks, just so I was getting to 2 and 3 weeks old, I think it was going to come on really, really nicely. So I'm really disappointed that there was none left, because I really wanted to see how it finished up, for 2 reasons. One, obviously to see how the hops had went, how they'd gone with the process with using the keg, holding gas back, to try and keep some of that aroma in, how that had played out and worked. And the other thing also was to see how the verdant yeast had what sort of part it had played in the whole process. So now I've got really not a great of information either way. I'm fairly confident that the dry hopping process and the way I've gone about it had worked and had provided a good result. I have extra verdant yeast. I'll be able to use that. I'll be able to run a different batch with that. I've got a couple of packets left over from the mail out I did with all the patrons, with everyone all the patrons with a pack of yeast for Christmas / New Year. So I've got a couple of packets left over from that. So I'll be able to do another brew of that down the track. So that's where it finished up. So sorry guys, I can't do a actual proper tasting review on that beer. But from what I did, so it definitely was a good brew. The brew worked. The malt bill was really good. The beer itself had a beautiful body, lovely colour, lovely feel. So I'm happy with the grain bill. And the hopping schedule I think worked well as well. So definitely something I can work on a brew down the track. So there will be a follow-up with that, more brews and similar style coming in the coming months. Not exactly on what process. I've got a few brews to get out to brew. I'm just about out of home brew at the moment. Very close. I think I've got about 1/3 of a keg left of the extract Kolsch, and I've got this, which is the rice lager, which I think I'd be lucky if it's got 2 glasses left in it. So that's apologies. So if you've got any comments or any questions about the brew, put them down the bottom. Ask away. As always, patrons, guys, cheers and thank you. Subscribers, thanks for the support. Patreon subscribers, hitting the like button, these things all help Little John. Thank you very much for that. If you aren't subscribed, hit the button down there in the corner. Come along, get informed when things are happening so you don't miss any videos. But other than that, from now, that's me, done. So till I'm looking at you again, we're brewing beer, drinking beer, or talking beer. Good brewing. And Happy New Year.